Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Lifesize Live. It's the live web show that we produce each week right here through the Lifesize studio. I'm your host, Julian Fields, and with me today we've got Tim Maloney. He's our Senior Vice President of Global Channels, and he's here to talk managing remote employees as a remote employee. So, Tim, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Julian. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course, and you're joining us from your remote office there.
That's right. The battle bunker, if you will. So I am based in Chicago and not in our corporate headquarters in Texas.
Right. And how long have you been based remote?
The other way to look at that is how many times have I ever had an office job, and that was twice, right? So basically my whole 20-something years, I've always been a remote person, always running teams remote.
Very interesting. So I imagine you picked up then quite a few tips that you're going to be great at sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of it through trial and error. So, when we first started talking about this and the value of being a remote, how to manage remote employees and how to manage remote employees while being remote, as I put some notes down, I think there are 4 things or traps that companies sort of fall into or either forget when they talk about their remote employees. And the first one, Julian, is that the remote employees are people too. And I know it sounds silly, but because of their remoteness and because of the lack of connection, we move from treating people, corporations, companies, people move from seeing, oh, hey, that's Julian, to, oh, hey, that's that guy in New Jersey, or that's that woman in Canada, right? It happens. You stop to humanize them and start to almost talk about them as assets, which is a fairly negative thing to happen. Yeah. I think the second thing, Julian, that people should be aware of or cognizant of is that they're easily overlooked, right? How many times do companies put out emails or have like, hey, it's Taco Tuesday in the office, or hey, this good thing's happening in the office, or hey, we're having a party in the office. Yet, we decided to hire these people remotely. Yeah, we don't do anything about them. So nobody wants to hear about the great fun time that everybody else is having because, hey, everybody works real hard. So companies forget. They overlook, right? And again, the more we put people on an island, right, the more they start to believe they are on one, and now you get a culture. I think now you get into 2 elements of physics. One, things happen faster on the edge. If it's an example of this is the HQ and this is your employees, as it moves, everything happens faster out on the edge. Right. So you have to be cognizant of that. Conversations around the water cooler that don't get to them, right? Decisions that they're not a part of. Things always seem to be happening faster. That's evolution, it's emotion, it's insight. Things happen when you're on the edge. And employees that are remote are out on the edge. I think the other thing is that the wave, the amplitude grows the further you are from the center. A small shock at HQ is a tsunami by the time it gets to some of my remote employees, right? The gravity, because they weren't a part of the decision process. They're not there every day. So you have to be in a mindset that says, yes, these people are sometimes viewed as assets. They're overlooked. And then the natural physics of things happen faster on the edge, and the amplitude can grow. So yeah, there are all kinds of pitfalls if you're not cognizant of them, of remote people.
My first job out of college was remote, and so these are all really resonating with me. Being my first job, I was still new in my career. I wasn't doing a lot of meetings. I was pretty much just doing tasks as they were assigned to me. Living alone, working remote, there were days where I would it'd be 5 o'clock and I would have not spoken a word the entire day. So I think you've really highlighted the negatives of the seclusion of working from home.
Yeah, that's right. And remember, at the end of the day, we hired these people. Your organization hired these people for a reason. You wanted them a part of your team. But then how do we act? And it gets to the heart of culture. Who are you? Right? It's nice to have the things on the wall and motivating posters, but do you live the values? Do you treat people equally and understand that people who are not in that building, right, have different needs? It is lonely. They fight the perception that, hey, you're at home, get to sleep in, you don't have to work like the rest of us, when in fact, like, hey, you hired that individual on a remote basis, you probably screened for all this, right? Those are just excuses. Like, people who work remote have different challenges. In my role, I'm fortunate that I have a worldwide ecosystem of wonderful partners, and I go visit them, and we talk about business discussions. The challenge, though, sometimes when companies are like, what we'll do is let's have our remote people come to the office and re-engage. And I think those things are positive, but there are times like, wait, I now need to get back on the road. I need to leave my office yet again to reconnect, right? It's hard if that is your only reliance.
If it's your only touch point, exactly. If you only get together once a year, it becomes this big celebratory thing, and you really miss out on that ongoing relationship.
Exactly, right? Email is the worst. It doesn't convey tenor or tone. You don't know if that person's making a joke, being serious. I have a counterpart in Germany that sends me emails in capital all the time. That's a cultural thing. He's not yelling at me. But if you don't know, right, then you move to the next least worst communication, the phone. At least I can hear you.
Yep.
But when I talk to my remote employees, it's hard for them to understand, like, are they malicious obedience? Are they just saying yes? Do they agree? Or are they having a problem? And you can't see the visual. All you get is the auditory. So it's a little better than email, but you still don't get the connection. And then
the nonverbal it says everything. If I'm working with you as my manager, I get to get a little bit of personality out of you, just as you do me. So that way, if some problem were to come up, I could look at you face to face, and we could work on something together. It makes it that much easier to kind of problem solve and get over an issue.
It is the job, right? That's how problems start in organizations, regardless of who you are. It is that miscommunication that we then have to spend cycles to fix misconceptions that weren't there anyway. So how do I do it? One, you've got to engage your people all the time. But a failure is if my people see me as their connection to the organization. As a leader of remote people, I drive my people not only to talk with me, but I force them to go find other people in the organization to talk with. Like, we're fortunate at Lifesize that, the gentleman that runs our biz dev team is world class, right? And he represents the state of Texas in the inside sales organization. So an easy answer for me would be like, oh, I heard this from Anil, you should try this. A better answer to my people is, why don't you call Anil? Reach out to him. One, you get the answer we're looking for, but two, I am building more pipelines into the organization for my remote people. They're becoming self-sustaining that they can call now other people. So, a tip for anyone who has remote people, help them, but you help them in multiple ways, which is help them get the answer, but help them do it in a way that's sustainable, that drives the connection that you want in your company with remote employees. Okay. Give them the tools to be successful. I'm grateful that I have a company that has enabled me to have this HD quality communication that you and I are almost in the same room together. Yeah. When I had my worldwide staff meeting, it was amazing that people actually said, I actually haven't met you live yet. But we've been working together for months. We're a highly efficient, well-operating team. And when you can see, you can listen. I had teams in Singapore and Germany and Brazil and you name it. And whether it's language, culture, difficult discussions, or even just reconnecting, this visual approach, right? The tool, like, what are you after? What did you spend on hiring, vetting, onboarding, enabling? Sure, we don't think twice about giving someone a laptop. We don't think twice about giving a remote employee the tools they need. But, when you look at the fully burdened cost, and then what job did you want to have these people do for you, to not give them a viable solution to connect themselves, to draw out their best to your company, is foolish. You shouldn't do it at all then. And the Lifesize solution is an amazing tool that's enabled me. I never had something like this when I've run remote teams before. And it would have
completely changed everything.
I've compressed the cycle of building a team, of learning. We rolled out a global partner program. We rolled out a global pricing program. We've hired people and did that remotely because we run a well-connected organization that communicates effectively through these kinds of collaborative tools. So, my guidance to people is they're important. You hired them for a reason, but equip them to do the things that you want them to do and treat them like you do everyone else, right? Oh, we don't invest in that remote person. We don't give them the tools. We don't treat them the same and are shocked that they don't perform at a high level. So, yeah, those are the hard lessons I've learned over 20 years of doing this.
Well, Tim, I thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your wisdom with us. I know we've gotten a couple of questions that have come in through the stream, so I'll follow up with you. We can get a blog together and answer those questions.
Perfect. That'd be great, Julian, and thank you so much for having me on today.
Yeah, and again, thank you so much for joining. And for everyone out there, thank you for tuning in live, and we'll see you next time.